What up, though? My name is KG the Kid, and you have officially tuned in to Crowned, Confessions and Conversations, where you can expect authentic discussion about life, relationships, current events, and everything in between, all from a faith perspective. Let's get it. These questions, because that's actually literally like, what do you say to another mother or a family in order to encourage them that, you know, this might be their situation, or it may not be this exact same thing, but it might look something similar.
I think one of the things that Pastor said to me, and it, like, I don't know, like, why, like, sometimes, like, the simplest sayings, like, just, like, hit me super hard and become, like, yes, I can, this is, like, one of the substratums. I can use this, and this is going to help anchor me when that the storm starts coming. So I think one of the things that Pastor has said to me in the past is that you are not the heavy load carrier. And that was such a revelation.
Listen.
Like, who? Me? I'm not.
I'm not.
You know, like right.
Legacy is like, who?
Right. And so I think, like, really just, like, holding on to that concept, because sometimes, like, I feel as though we put a lot on our plates, probably more than what we should. And, like, just being able to kind of backtrack into some of the things that we've already touched on, like, tap into the tribe and learn to cooperate with God. Learn to allow for, yes, Lord, this is everything that's going on, and how are we going to tag team this thing? So what are we going to do next? Like, that sort of thing, I would say, has been, like, the biggest piece of advice that I could possibly think to come up with is learn how to tap into, like, every resource, especially the heavenly ones.
That's good.
That's good.
I would say to make sure that remind people how far they've come.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we think of, you know, futuristic, like, okay, like we said before, I have to do this in 10 years, or my child has to do this in X amount of months. Look at where you were when you said, I can't do this. Or this is so hard. How are we going to get through this? And the time that has passed, and how far you come, how much has been accomplished, and give yourself credit for, you know, the things that you know you have done. You've seen your child get through, and then I would say also to focus on your child's abilities.
Yes,
and not
so key.
What they cannot do, or what they haven't. The milestones they didn't get at, you know, at that certain time. Focus on what they can do, you know, and you know, praise them for that and celebrate those things.
Yeah. That's good. That's so good, and can definitely be implemented in so many different places in our lives. Sorry. Okay. What would you like people to start saying or stop saying as it relates to children with special needs? So this is your opportunity to tell everybody off. No, it's not. That's not what it is. And if I give you the eyebrow, just know that you're probably like in your feelings. But what would you like people to start or stop saying as it relates to children with special needs?
I think it's like really tying into what Cewanda was just saying in terms of like tap into like their ability, like tap into like the things that they can do. Most of the time, like the things that make a person quote unquote disabled is not so much as like the condition as it is the environment around them. I was listening to a guy who I believe like for whatever reason he was wheelchair bound. And he said it's not so much as that he's disabled because of the wheelchair. He's disabled because everywhere he goes there's stairs and no ramps.
Wow.
You know, so if had his arms work just fine, you know. So it's just a matter of like really play it, like look into what they can do, celebrate those things, connect with those things, and see the human behind the diagnosis. They are so much more than a list of challenge, you know, like, so like look at the person holistically and actually look at ourselves holistically. Like we all are in the same boat in terms of having like our list of challenges and our list of strengths. So learn to amplify and choose to look at the strengths.
Awesome.
That's good. I have a few.
Okay.
I'll make it short though.
Do you think?
One of the things I would say that people should do is put the child before the special needs.
Yes.
You said that early on, that the child comes first. Before the label of special needs, because a lot of times it's like such a negative connotation. People already almost already judge the child or the person as their limitations.
Right.
So I would say make sure that when you mention you're talking about a child that has needs, that you don't say a special needs child. It's a child first. It's a person. It's a human being before anything. And also, I would like the people, when they give you advice or tell you a similar story with somebody, a child with autism or a child with a heart condition, don't get me into the story and then I say, okay, and then how old is the child now? Oh, yeah.
What?
People, please.
Right.
You
don't do that.
Right.
You
could have kept that story.
Give me some ending stories or some stories of hope.
Yes.
Or I don't know if you probably had that. I don't know if you had that. I'm sure you have.
Yeah, for sure.
But they'll get you so into it and you're like, oh my God, like this is what I need. I need this motivation. I need this, to see this kid that's now a teenager and going through these surgeries. And it's like, then they'll just stop. And I'm like, okay, look, what grade is he in now? Oh, they died. I have had that happen to me so many times that I can't even count. No. And I said, that is the most horrible thing.
Yeah. For sure.
I think before you speak is what I would say.
Period.
Let me know like a happy ending.
Yeah, because you're feeding something. So like if you're gonna serve somebody, serve them something that's like nourishment, as opposed to now I gotta cast down your story as well.
And I think people too, you get into a story sometimes and then you realize, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I've done that before. Yeah. Just out of having a conversation.
Yeah. You want to have sometimes people want to have so much in common with that person instead of like just realizing like this might be business that might need to be my business.
Yes.
And sometimes it's okay just to listen.
Yeah. Please say it.
You don't have to contribute. Your contribution can be just that. Just being an ear,
And another thing that I think we want people to stop saying or be more conscious of. You've ever heard people say that person's slow?
Yes.
Or the short bus?
Yes.
People. Or the worst, the one that I hate the most is retarded.
Yes.
Teach them.
This didn't affect me, I don't think, or I didn't have a real sore spot for this before Kendall. I'll be very honest with that. But when I hear people say that about, any child or any person, like, oh, they're just slow. And people make, with your friends, we do that, stop acting slow. That is so offensive now to me than ever before, because that is saying, this child or this person is not a human being. Like they're below or beneath everybody else. Yeah. So just want to keep, saying words that are encouraging and uplifting, around the board, not just for children, but just to say, give a kid or, somebody that label. I did want to just say this quote that I saw. I was really interested in. It says, a child is only as disabled as the environment and the beliefs of the people around them.
Yep. So true.
That is so key.
True.
Yeah.
We project that on others sometimes, and it's the people that are the problem.
Right.
The environment that's the issue.
Exactly.
It's not the child.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and even having this episode, and even talking about these questions, I am so uncomfortable with the term special needs. But even in our community, let's just keep it 100, being real, especially in our community, saying that, someone is slow or retarded. I grew up in the 90s. So that was something that was a lot more common.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, even being more mindful of just, being a kid that was raised by, Southern women that I love and I respect and I regard, but sometimes some of the stuff that they say, they don't even know some of the stuff that I have had to work through.
Yeah.
And hearing those types of things. And one of the things that I can say that even in doing this, the podcast and doing this episode, I commend you both because you are still very mindful about how, yes, we're talking about the facts of this, of these situations and these experiences, but you are all still very mindful about what it is and how you say what you say as it pertains to these situations, these circumstances, and these children. Because at the end of the day, like you said, these are kids.
Right.
Like they're people,
Absolutely.
they're human beings, and we know that as people of faith, what comes out of our mouth is what we will see.
Yeah.
Because that's how God created us. He created us to be speaking spirits. So even in this conversation, I still commend you both for being so mindful, because I'm even looking at like I said, like some things we just kind of have to say how it is on the paper in order for the general population to get it. Whereas, you know,
because they may be doing the same thing, but they don't even realize.
Right.
Like, wow.
Right.
You know?
And in the words of our pastor, like, you know, just adjust, just make the adjustment of being mindful of like, you may not recognize how you saying something in the way that you said it may have been offensive. So even if you feel the need to go back and apologize to somebody or to a mom or to that kid or whoever else, like being mindful of that and knowing that that's okay. Or you could just make the adjustment right then and there and move forward knowing that now that you know better, you should do better.
And teach your children.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not, you know, always the adults. Children don't know. They only know what they're seeing or somebody else say.
Right.
Or like in school, you know, you don't want the child that may be in a, you know, separate class for reading or language or whatever it is. You don't want your kids like teasing them.
Yeah.
Or, you know, just kind of separating them and they don't get picked for, you know, play any sports or do anything like that. You want to make your kid, you know, let your kids know, like, what's the differences you may have, but you don't treat them any different.
And I think that that's across the board.
Yes.
Teaching inclusion is across the board because, and one of the things that I wanted to say is like in terms of like the whole name calling or having like this sense of degrading people who learn different due to like various challenges. A lot of times like we don't realize that it hurts us as a whole because I mean, yes, it's hard for the family and it's hard for the child, especially like when it's coming from peers or from like their community, but in general it hurts the community in the sense that our kids, like let's say I'm going to take autism for an example. Our kids are more likely to be diagnosed last. And that's because a lot of times there's just fear that, you know, circles around like the diagnosis. Like, oh, well, what are people going to think? Are they going to think that he's slow? Are they going to think that he's this or that he's that? And a lot of times, like we have to look at it even from like a historical standpoint. There was a time where it's to have any type of challenge or any type of disability was to be disposable. And we live in a community or in a society rather that kind of reinforces that same historical teaching in the sense that like right now, if something doesn't work, we're so consumer driven, then this pen doesn't work, throw it away. And nobody wants that to be their kid. And so you feel like if you get the diagnosis, then that makes everything real, not knowing that it's real regardless. It's just how are you going, this is already shown up at your door. Now, how are you going to handle it is more so the question, but ignoring it is like reinforced by the negative connotation. So I think the more that we get to know people who learn different, people who have been through different experiences, the stronger we are as a whole. And so,
also with in parenting, we need help. Or we need therapy. Or we're not okay. Not being afraid to say that. To verbalize that. Because if you're not okay, you're not doing any service, you know, to, you know, your child, your family, or whatever. We have to, you know, seek help. That's a whole nother podcast. In itself, but, you know, being unafraid or ashamed to tell the truth.
Yes.
Because it can hurt you in the end versus, you know, help you.
And know that even in having discussions like this, it's not about, even in being a person of faith, it's not about saying that God can't heal. there's this, like you said, there's this idea that there's this brokenness there. And it's like, no, it's not a brokenness. It's just different.
Yeah.
And because it's different, God has given grace to walk this out. But it doesn't mean that, you know, it just bothers me more so when I see like Christians look at, you know, circumstance and certain things, and even, you know, whether it's autism, whether it's heart issues or whatever else, and look at it and be like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you must not be in faith.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if
God,
you pray about it, then he'll be perfectly fine. That's like, what? Like, do you know that like faith without works is dead? So you're sitting here like yelling and screaming and praying, but if you're not working and, you know, doing the research and doing therapy and having the conversations with the doctors, like, what is
like you said before, you don't know, you haven't gone through that, you don't know what you're talking about.
Mind you business. I am in faith. Right. I am praying. Yeah. So don't tell me I can't go to the altar, I'm crying. Yeah. Asking for prayer.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
No, that does not mean that at all.
Not at all.
It's just, it hasn't hit you or your situation to have to, you know, to need or to boost your faith. Or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
To, it hasn't presented itself to you.
Right.
So you have no idea. Stay in your own lane.
Mind your business.
Don't judge
the truth of the matter is coming, like life is going to come to everybody. It's gonna it presents differently. It might not be autism, you know, for everybody, but life is coming because there's a certain amount of volatility that life brings in general, and so faith is going to show up different for different people. And so I think just learning how to be there for one another, you know, really how to practice inclusion. Like your story is not my story and vice versa, but how to be there and how to support one another is so gold, so key.
That's okay. I'm sorry. I think I kind of was the one who ended up getting had to will myself back in. What have you learned about your child's specific diagnosis that you didn't know before?
So there are 3 different types, I guess, of autism. There's high functioning, which is commonly known as like Asperger's, or there's another name for it, but I'm going to stick with those 2 because that's the ones that are coming to my mind. There's like a more severe version of autism, and then there's like the majority of the kids or people end up in the middle, which is with autism. It's like I don't want to call it mild, but like PPD is what it's referred to as. And I think this version of autism presents like there's not as much research, I guess, is what I've learned. The majority of the people are in the middle, and there's so much more research on like super severe autism or like severe on either end of the spectrum. So I've basically learned the different types and then how that looks like in my house. Because if they say if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism, you know? And so it's like really like trying to unfold what that looks like for my kiddo. I've learned that he is very, very detail oriented, and he'll notice things and details that I don't notice at all, you know? And so it's like really like tapping into his, and I don't want to like, so I'll put it like this, like tapping into his genius, like tapping into like those things that he's really, really strong at, and then learning how to like help him to grow and develop in those things. So for example, one of those things, like Emeka loves high energy activities. So he's recently started taking swim classes with me. And I've learned that he can do a lot more than what like I've given him credit for. Like he's pretty much teaching himself how to swim, you know, for the most part. So like just like learning to take, like you were saying earlier, and like both of you were saying, really to take some of the blinders off and just get out there into different environments, learn how to just kind of. I've learned that there is much more than what meets the eye. So that's the short answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah. Wow. That's good because you're talking about swimming. Like so many times we're like, want to protect, like, okay,
yes,
let me tell you, like to the instructor, probably,
right,
like,
exactly.
You need to watch him, and America's just out there.
But see, that's why it's me. That's why I'm the instructor, because and my swimming skills are like I can keep from drowning. You know, I'm not expert level at all. But like just getting out there in the environment with him in so many different environments have proven like key. Like learning how not to. I don't know, crawl up into a ball or crawl up into your shell, but literally take those steps as to figure out how can we be successful at church? How can we be successful at the swimming pool? How can we be successful at the library? Wherever we're at, learning how to like take those steps to set him up for success and let him flourish in these different environments, because you just never know what's going to be his thing, like what's going to click. So,
okay. I think what I've learned about the diagnosis, or more specifically, is one of the most common birth defects that you can have is a congenital heart defect. Your congenital heart disease is the number one birth defect in the U.S. and it's very common. Also, it makes up for about 40,000 births per year. Congenital just means you're born with it,
right?
But it's one of the most common birth defects, and I didn't know that. Another thing is that surgeries and treatments have come such a long way over time. There's, so many surgeries that they couldn't do before.
Yeah.
If a child that was born with no right ventricle, no left ventricle in the heart, years ago was born, they would do nothing to try to save the child because they weren't that advanced in the surgeries.
Yeah.
So now, just think of something that tiny, a tiny heart that they can do. Change things around and reroute stuff and do all these different medicines and everything have come such a long way. And I would just say that educate yourself.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah.
We read, we talk to people. I educate myself mostly from people who have gone through it.
Okay.
Different groups, Facebook groups or whatever it is, that have the same diagnosis or it's usually like peers that versus another group or whatever. I just kind of stick to the people that I need or I get information from that's relevant. And also another thing I would say is you have to listen to the doctors, what they say to be to know the education of your child's diagnosis. But the statistics I don't like to hear.
Yeah.
Don't tell me 20% live to this age, 30% do this.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to tell me like, no, I'm not accepting that.
Right.
This is what we're gonna do. She's different.
Yeah.
It's a different child, different situation.
Yeah.
100% she's going to live. So
right.
All right. Thank you. But just that you don't have to accept everything that you hear.
Yes.
That's the final say.
Yeah.
It's like what your belief goes back to your belief system and your faith. Or what you read or what the doctors say or what you're told.
Yeah.
Right.
Listen to it, take it all in, but you apply, to your child what, for your situation is different sometimes than what you hear.
Yeah. It's just like when we're taught about the difference between faith versus truth, or facts versus truth, and the fact might be that you got this report and it looks ugly or whatever, but the truth is that by His stripes we are healed.
Yes.
And so like learning to just apply the truth and like figure out which one are you going to stand on. So. Yeah, and not to say that we ignore the other. Like faith is not denial. It's not saying that these things are not present, but it's like acknowledging that these various factors are present. And with all that being said, I'm still going to choose to believe that Jesus came on this earth and He died for my baby, and for me, so. And being able to really learn how to develop that relationship, because that's a tall order. It is, especially like when there's so much credibility that comes from the medical profession, and I'm not to say that they don't deserve it. They do deserve, they are credible sources. At the same token, the source, is who I choose.
I was trying to say that before I got emotional. So I'm happy. No, I'm so happy you brought it up. Because that is very key. It's very important. What resources would you all offer or talk about that you wish somebody had in play for you that you may not have known about? Like any resources that you could possibly share?
For me, like I said before, resources. I use our people, for families, moms, that have had like or similar situations, diagnosis.
Yeah,
those are my go-to for, especially ones that are older than Kendall.
Yeah,
that I've been following, or that I can see, their child has progressed and made it through, these different types of surgeries and everything. So it's mostly for me. Social media is powerful. So that's where I get my the people I follow from. I sometimes talk to them. I sometimes text them. It's not like a support group where we have to get together and sit. But I need to go to them sometimes, and they come to me sometimes to ask. They just had a child that was born.
Yeah.
So I can then guide them through some things that they're going through.
Yeah.
Another resources are, I think, just telling your story.
Yeah.
When you're on, especially on social media, you don't know who's looking at your page and saying, wow, I didn't know this about her, or she, was going through this. I have a neighbor who has a friend who has a daughter that, you never know who you're going to reach. And I also have relationships with a lot of nurses and doctors. Just as a benefit for me being a nurse, that I can call on. That that I kind of stay with. We talk. They know Kendall, and if I have something going on, then I rely on them. I call and text them. But I don't try not to look them, but it is a good resource to have.
Yeah, so in terms of resources, I think for me, it just kind of depends on the situation. So, like I said, I can relate in terms of having like various Facebook or social media friends and people and stories that I've like followed and made connections with. It kind of depends. So I have one Facebook group that is really, really good in terms of if I need some type of like a tangible local service, like who knows where of the best speech therapist, or places that take certain types of insurance, things like that. Then there's a Facebook group that I can rely on for things like that. There's also a program called Autism Alliance of Michigan, and they are really good with like helping people find like tangible resources as well. And then there's also like groups that I go to when I need like encouragement and support. I've done therapy in the past for myself, not just hooking it up for my baby, but like for me as well. I found that family is a good resource. And then I want to make sure that I'm answering the question exactly how you asked it. So is it resources that I have found helpful, or is it resources that I would suggest?
A little bit of both. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. So yeah, church has also been like a really strong resource as well, because you get like a plethora. So you get like your spiritual needs met. I can also get like some of like just being able to fellowship. It's like a safe environment, for at least this is my story. So it's been a safe environment. Whereas if I feel like my kid is running around, then I know that there's not just my eyes, but there are other eyes that are going to be like looking out and care about him, and they've prayed for him to show up on the scene, just like I prayed for him to show up on the scene. So it's definitely a tribe. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So my next question is, because we've talked so much about your amazing stories and just you all being like these amazing mommies and all the things that you've learned about yourself. But what does self-care look like while you're supporting your little one?
So I think for me, self-care looks like really enjoying the moment, maximizing the moment. I read a quote that was basically talking about how life takes so much from us. We have to take back from life. And so basically what that looks like for me is learning to, just stop and turn on some music and bust a quick move in the kitchen while we making breakfast, or a little bit of exercise here and there, like literally just carving out like time in the day that I can like be fed. So typically throughout my day, I have my headset in my ear and I'm listening to something that is uplifting while parenting, you know, while living, while doing all those everyday things. So it really just means like taking a little bit of time throughout the day, every day for myself every day. Yes. Just be greedy. Just get in there. Get in there. Life's taken from you. Take back. You know.
For me, I won't say it's every day because I still have issues with that. Yeah. Everybody gets their stuff. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm tired or whatever. But in an ideal day or weekend or whatever, when I can, I love to, if I can just go to the like grocery store or a store by myself, that is just
yes.
so exciting to me. I have my AirPods in and I'm listening. Sometimes it's not uplifting music though. I go with like T-Pain the Job.
That's uplifting. That is uplifting. That still counts. I mean, that still qualifies.
But and also food.
Yeah.
I love to get a meal, like a lunch or a dinner. And what I find, I'll tell you, I have so many gift cards that I've never used. And when I go to use them, like, I'm like, oh my God, I can go here. And I'm like, my meal is paid for. Like, that kind
That's
of
the
stuff
best.
is just, it just takes me there. That's my self-care. It's like when I find bonus gift cards around the house that I forgot about or never used, or a pedicure.
Okay, so now I know what to send you for Christmas.
Right, exactly. I love it. I love it. What has been the biggest surprise in this experience?
I think for me, going back and having an opportunity to raise the little girl. So like looking like internally, raise the little girl inside. So as I'm parenting, there has been so much that parenting is teaching me. So basically like appreciating that as he's growing, I'm growing, and she's growing. Yeah. Put your 2 cents in, little mama. So yeah, that has been the biggest surprise.
That's and me and legacy.
Yeah, and legacy. Yes, right.
I would say for me, I was trying to do everything, and then realizing I can't fix her. I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, oh, I could do this therapy or sign her up for this or take her to this appointment, had all these doctors, all these new therapists and everything, and like say the outcome or the situation was the same. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not getting any better? You know, I thought that if I did more, if I watched her like a hawk more, if I didn't let her do certain things that, you know, things the situation going to change around, turn around. So I guess for me, saying God is in control, He's got this. Sis, there's nothing you can do to fix her. Like she's good. You know, He's going to take complete care of her. And also scars. I would say that. So she's had so many surgeries. She has a lot of scars. She's getting to the age where she's trying to cover them up, you know. She's going to be a teenager, and I don't want to be seen like pulling her shirts up so you can't see it on her chest and everything. So, and now saying scars are a testimony. Just realizing that anybody that has a scar, no matter who they are, there's a story behind that.
For sure.
Nobody gets a story from a good thing.
Sure.
There ain't a scar from like something good happening. You know? So it's like, what does that mean? It's your opportunity to share that.
Yes.
Where did you get the scar? I know this, like Queen Latifah, she has a scar on her forehead. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed. When she was playing with her brother, just like way back when she was 3 years old, I remember her saying she tripped over a telephone cord and hit her head on the bathroom door. So, you know, she has that permanent scar, and it's always a story to her to tell people of what happened. You know, it's always something that somebody can learn from, benefit from. So like, don't cover up.
That's good. That's good.
Don't try to. We went to the dermatologist to think, you know, it's keloid and maybe do plastic surgery. He was like, absolutely not. Yeah. You just let her know she's beautiful. Yes, she is. She can use a scarf. She can put on a bathing suit, whatever. And people are going to look at her, and then that's her opportunity to share what she's been through to help somebody else. And I was like, oh my God, I never thought about it like that.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ooh, y'all in here preaching. Okay, listen.
Awesome.
Well, the last question, I would be totally remiss if I didn't ask this question because of the name of the show. Can you share with us at least one confession that you speak over your child, and why is this confession important?
So mine is quick and pretty simple because I feel like life gets real busy, and so I need something that I can just regurgitate quickly. So it's based off of Philippians 1:16, and it says, "Be confident, he who began a good work is faithful to complete it." Mm-hmm. So my son's name is Justin, and his middle name is Chukwuemeka, which is Igbo for God has done something great.
Yes,
and so it's just keeping that. His name was prophetic, or is and was prophetic. So it's basically just keeping myself grounded in the fact that, regardless of what life says, regardless of the situations, God, he who began a good work is faithful to complete it.
Yeah.
That something great is still something great, and even greater than what you realize, Jasmine. Even if it's different even if life is taking a different path than what I thought it was going to take, it's still, yeah, you're right, which it always does. Yeah. There's so yeah, that's my favorite confession for E.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And one of mine, the one that I say the most, is pretty simple. And just says, Kendall has supernatural healing that is taking place right now.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
So I always say that right now. When I make sure I say now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know she's healed in the future because she's healed now.
Yeah. That's it.
And not saying the Lord will heal her.
Yeah.
In such and such. By such, date or whatever.
Yeah.
I say right now to her, all the time.
Yeah.
And that Kendall will live and not die.
Yeah.
Because that has been such a fear for me for so many years and going back and forth that I have to keep reminding myself.
Yeah.
It's not an option.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Kendall
good.
will live and not die. And then for her, I have her say, I have the mind of Christ.
Yeah.
All the time, and that I can do anything.
Yeah.
So that she doesn't, grow up thinking I'm limited because they said I can't do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
No, I have the mind of Christ and I can do anything.
Period.
So that's what she says, and that's what I say.
I love it.
That is so good. I don't. There's a piece that just came into the room as soon as you both started talking about confession. Legacy is literally laid out, y'all.
She is.
Baby is asleep. Okay. But literally there is a piece that just came into the room because we know that faith is now. And what we confess, and like you said, even from the beginning, God knew. He knew who E would be. He knew what Kendall would be.
Right.
He knew, and I just
no mistakes.
Right.
No, not
purpose, design,
completely made in His image.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah.
He created them for us.
Yeah.
How much love is that?
Exactly.
I can't imagine anybody else being her mother. You know what I mean?
No.
To have a teenager, I think sometimes, wow. I get overwhelmed. I can't imagine a child having her and raising her. And no, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's
somebody
a lot.
that doesn't have, the resources
like
we do. We're blessed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're very blessed.
Absolutely. Exactly. I'm so grateful. One of the things, like I said, this episode is very near and dear to my heart, and God just really met me when I started even trying to figure out about, just the whole episode and the questions and everything. So I want to thank you both. One of the things that I asked God for was a confession, and one of the things that He reminded me was that we are God's masterpiece, and that's according to Ephesians 2:10. And to know that E and Kendall are God's masterpiece
for sure
is that constant reminder, like you said, nobody else could have done what you ladies are doing for these amazing kids.
Thank you.
They're so great. And I just want to thank you both for coming and sharing and being vulnerable and being open to share. And I'm excited about the different people who I know will be looking to reach out to you both. And I'll have all your information. But if you want to talk a little bit about how they can get in contact with you, you still have the mic. So,
well, I have a website. I know Kendra will have it. It's a long website. So
I will put it up. Absolutely.
But it's www.kendallswholeheart.com, and it's KENDALLSWHOLEHEART.com. And that's what we have, some products on there also. We have t-shirts that state that it's beautifully scarred. My scars prove that I am healed. Yeah. We also have books that are available. Kendall has a children's book, and then I have a book that I wrote, basically chronicle like from the diagnosis and through how our family was affected by this, our family dynamics. And then the third one is my latest book, Never Alone, and it's a book it's a 30-day devotional, and it's filled with principles and scriptures to help parents along, day to day, just to let you know that, you're validated, that you are loved by people, that you're doing an amazing job, even when you think you're not, and that you're supported. So look me up.
All right. Please look her up. Look her up. Every single one of those resources are gold. But when I tell you that 30-day devotional hit different for your girl, that's yes. I think I've gone through it like maybe 2 or 3 times, and it's always on standby. So about my information, again, my name is Jasmine Eve, and you can find me on Ebony Shades of Autism, which is a Facebook page. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't have like a...
Jasmine is growing. Her brand is
we're
growing.
Working it out. Figuring it out, working it out.
Mommy, as you can hear. But once again, I want to take the opportunities to thank both of you for coming. Legacy, shout out to you because you're the cutest thing. But thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having us. Yes.
I just be sitting here. That's all.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
For really creating the space. Yes.
It's just that I just be trying to be obedient at this point in my life. I done stop being disobedient. Well, let's try. I'm trying, y'all.
Okay, good girl. Right.
But all right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will check you out on episode 3. All right. God bless. That's still churchy. I don't know why I keep saying that. I appreciate you for tuning in. I hope something that was said encouraged you and reminded you of God's plan for your life. Remember, keep your hands clean and don't forget to adjust your crown.
Before moms met pops, Christ had paid the fee. And every time I slip up and forget who I trying to make this thing move.
I appreciate you for tuning in. I hope something that was said encouraged you and reminded you of God's plan for your life. Remember, keep your hands clean and don't forget to adjust your crown.
Before moms met pops, Christ had paid the fee. And every time I slip up and forget who I